Duff, top promoter, he said to me one day, as a professional fighter, and the game was totally different now, because as an amateur you had to fight me. As an amateur you had to turn up on this day, or I got the walkover, and I was now the whatever champion. So you had to fight me to make an argument, to box for the Olympics and whatever. So you had to fight me, and they couldn't avoid me. But then as a professional, they could avoid me. They could keep out of my way. I then had to become a salesperson. I had to become an executive manager. I had to control every element, which was just not happening. Because then you got to come back and focus on your business. And you are dealing with people who you don't know. And they have their own agenda. And people like, you can see it, people like Mike Tyson, they had people, you got sophisticated people after your worth. And they'll go to all levels to get it. And that's what boxing can and does do sometimes. So you need a solid team around you. And if you haven't got that, I think Steve Collins said it, you become the outside man. And Steve Collins was that. And remember, Steve Collins, he did do well. He was a world champion at middleweight. But the Chris Eubanks thing, and so the big phenomenon where he made his big name as a super middleweight, that came about because he got called in. Because their opponent pulled out, they needed an opponent, they got Steve Collins. And Steve grabbed it with both hands. But you've got to be living in a gym to be doing that. Yeah, and if you're not working and you know the phone goes off when you're in the gym, the phone goes off, but they're not asking about you. When you're not in the gym and you're getting married or you had a baby, you're being asked about. And that's sad. That saddens me. But that is the way the game rolls. So you've got to be on top of your game. And that's what I teach people. You said before when I was doing boxing, that's the trust. I teach that and I will not back down on that. So anybody who's with me knows the insides and outs. If I can't help them, I find somebody who can. And they need to know that trust. I need to know my limits. And I know some fighters can go into fights and they're not supposed to win. And I can say to them, we're going to find a way to win. You don't have to have your hand in the air to be the winner. You've got to take away from that experience a winning formula. And that's the win. You know? I suppose I didn't really look at it as sacrifices as such. I just loved doing what I did. And if I said to people, I didn't like the fight. It was, and there's a good reason why I didn't like the fight. And I couldn't put my finger on this for years. I didn't like the fight because of what was expected. There was too much expected to enjoy it. And yet my dad would say to me when I got upset and angry and agitated, and my mum would say, why are you eating? And I wasn't eating for like 4 or 5 days. And I had a bin bag on, which is disgraceful, to get weight off and starve the weight off and run the weight off. And I didn't feel like fighting because I didn't feel like me. By the time I got to the fight, I was so dehydrated and drained, you didn't want to fight. That's why I didn't want to fight. I kept thinking, I love boxing. I want to box. I want to get in there. But I was never getting, well, I would say out of all my professional fights, my amateur fights, when I trained my condition way, where Mickey taught me, when I trained that way, I was always on weight. But when I was trained by others, not because they were bad trainers and that, but just that their motivation, me trying to try too hard to impress upon my coaches and people around me, and it needs to be maintained, needs to be controlled. And since they had no maps of how fast I ran, if I did 1,000 press-ups, they wanted 10 more. So you could never please the coaches. You could never please the people around. And that was the desire in boxing in my eyes. Whenever I did something, I had to be quicker, had to be faster, had to be stronger. And that eventually would burn me out. By the time I got to the fight, I was overweight. And then came the horrible 6 weeks of training, prime condition, 1 week of sabotaging the weight loss. And yeah, it just was horrible. By the time you got to the fight, mentally, you didn't want to fight. So that's why I didn't want to fight. But when I got it right, and I was on weight, and I hadn't overtrained, I considered myself unbeatable because I was happy with what I had. I was happy with whatever the decision was, but I always knew. When I got pulled into fight at short notice, I wasn't a happy bunny. Well, first of all, I wasn't their weight. I was a middleweight, so I was 11 stone 6 pounds, and they were They were 11 stone 6 and then moved up to, for the world title stage, they were moved up to 12 stoners. 12 stoners, super middleweight title. So I wasn't really, I'm not a big guy for my weight. And so therefore, realistically, I could have been a light middleweight, who's an 11 stone fighter. But I didn't understand the nutrition side of things, the diet side of things, and when you're overtraining and training hard, and I wasn't sent to camps. I think if I'd gone to a camp and trained for 6-8 weeks and the food was right and everything was right and the sparring was right and everything was, then I think I probably would have campaigned as a light middleweight. But because I was on Civvy Street, in other words, McDonald's kind of lined up, and I was kind of overtraining a lot of the time when the big fights came, and because I was taken out of my system. So one of the reasons was I had a system back in Burton, what made me, and I reverted back to it when I needed these big fights against Shaun, Cummings, Frank Grant. I reverted back to my old amateur training program, and which meant I was on my own, but I had to feel confident what I was doing. What I had to do then as a professional, I had to be around a camp, a professional camp. So I ended up with Brendan Ingalls, and at some point I was in London town with a few other good top fighters, good trainers. But I find it difficult to live in London because I was Burton born, and Derby was my area, and Midlands was my area. It was difficult to get to London and start afresh and start making new friends and new coaches and all that comes with it. And obviously the society of London, the system, got to change and adapt to this new way of living. And I kind of wanted to go home. But as a selling product, had I been boxing in Derby, people would have flooded to go watch me fight. But because I had to go to London and I had to make my career, if you think about it, my first couple of fights, I've got to sell myself. I've got to go out there and do the business. I've got to knock out. I've got to look the part. So if you think about it, midweek Wednesday, £25 ticket, got to get to London. The event starts at 7, right? You've got to beat the traffic. For my crowds here, that isn't in Derby, they've got to jump on coaches. They've got to pay for coaches. They've got to get to London. So that probably means taking time off work, the afternoon, and probably getting in late after the event, because they probably want to stay for the main event, because I'm on the undercard. They're probably going to stay to the end, which should probably be 11:30, 12 o'clock. Then they've got to trek all the way back to Burton, Derby. And I understand that. You're just not going to get, other than the hardened boxing fan, behind you. So when I turned up at London, I was probably had 100 people, 300 people max to come watch me fight. And most people would say, Nev, when you get the big British title fight, the main events will be there, mate. It's just it's a bit long-winded, that is. And I kept trying to explain to people, if I don't put bums on seats, I'm not going to get the title shot. So that was the dilemma. And once the promoters realised that I'm a dangerous fighter with no money behind me, I knew then that was the game. I wasn't going to get a crack. I didn't think I was ever going to get a crack at any title.
Have you ever fought in an atmosphere like this before? We've been saying, Glenn and I, we've been going all over the world. You'd struggle to recreate this anywhere.
I've always told, from my first promoter, Mickey Duff, I told them all, get me a fight in Burton-on-Trent. They're the hardest core fan fighters you'll ever see. And I've just proven it.
In a brewery on Burton-on-Trent for the world middleweight title.
Oh my Lord, maybe the Burton Football Club, the grounds, that would be brilliant.
Steve Collins fight, kind of the highlight of my career in one sense, because having been kind of avoided really because of the not being able to get the right purses to get guys to want to fight you, the Nigel Benns, the Eubanks, you needed these guys, they need to get paid. So you've got to bring a crowd with you. I was struggling in this way, and I was I'd consider myself a dangerous fighter to be in this mix. So the Steve Collins comes up. It's quite funny. I had 2 fights where I'd not looked so good because I was going through training problems, trying to work out why am I not shining. Have I lost it? Have I lost the drive? And I came back home to Burton, where I started rebuilding myself. And now I was boxing a guy called Shaun Cummings, who was considered the toughest kid in Britain. And they'd already penciled him in to box Steve Collins. So it's just a step over to beat me along the way. So that's you back up against the wall. I thought, all right, okay, I see. So I went back home and I made sure I trained the way I knew I had to beat this guy. And I went back home and then I beat Shaun in a Titanic battle. And it was one of my best nights because I was in shape. I proved everything wrong. I got great write-ups, Brown's back, and I beat him. Of course, now I've beaten him. There's talk now of me boxing Steve Collins. Which I was thinking, well, I'm not a middleweight, so why would they pick that fight for me? It's a war title, but it's super middleweight. I'm not big enough for that. I'm a middleweight. And anyway, so I moved into this house that I'm in now, and that was 19 years ago, 96, and 95, 96, and I just moved in, so my head was around beating Cummings and then getting into my new home, my first home, and I was getting all ready. It took about 3 or 4 months, and I was chasing up papers, I was doing this and I was doing that, solicitors, this, that, as you do. And I just moved in, and I remember one of the first phone calls I got, the phone goes off, sitting in my house feeling good, and the phone goes off, it's, Steve Collins, you want him? I went, what, the Steve Collins? And he went, yeah. I goes, yeah, what, for the world title? He goes, yeah, of course. I goes, hell yeah. And my head was thinking at that moment, wow, 3 months, I can eat what I want, I have no weight problem, I can go up a weight, 3-4 months training, and this will be the big fight. This is it, I've done it, we made it. When's the fight? 4 weeks time. Whoa. This is the world title fight. And you're telling me I've got 4 weeks. I've not even been in the gym for the last three or 4 months. I've flitted after the last fight. I've not really been in for the last 2 or 3 months. And I never do that. I'm always in a gym training. Do you want it or not? Yeah. Put the phone down. Didn't ask about money. It's like, this is it. I remember jumping off the seat, putting my running gear on, ringing my friend Ivan. It's happening, world title fight. When? 4 weeks. No, be serious. No, 4 weeks. 4 weeks? I goes, yeah. Are you serious? Nev, you're just here for... No, you can't take this, Nev. I can't turn it down. I got to go. You're going to call me on a bike ride, and I run. So I ran and I trained, and I put 2 weeks in of the most intense training ever. And then I remember training in the gym, sparring with the lads, and I got rid of this fight, and I didn't have any head sparring, and I didn't have any pads. I didn't stay at Burton where I should have stayed with my training. I needed a corner. I needed professional people around me that knew what was going on at this world-class level. I got to go to Ireland to take on this champion, and it was on. And I think it was about... I was so driven for the fight. I always say to people, you need, for a 12-round fight, you need 3 months. 12 weeks, that's a week per round. That's the way I used to train in my game. It had to make sense to me. So in that fight, I only had 4 weeks. With my drive and my will, I probably had 6 good rounds in me. It doesn't work against a world-class champion. Yeah, you can't cheat. You got to work the whole way. So I knew after 6 rounds, I wouldn't have the 12 rounds in me to do the distance. So I had to find a way to keep the fight competitive and be in the fight, and I managed to get to the 11th round, and I thought the fight was a lot closer than what the media said it was. And I remember people saying to me afterwards, that fight was a lot closer than what they said it was, and you had him hurt. And, which he had never acknowledged, I put him down in that fight, and I reckon he stumbled. He fell over a right hand. In the 10th round, before I get stopped in the 11th, he drops. And I remember nobody even mentioned it.
This has been a horrible round for him. Look at the bravery. Look at the bravery of Neville Brown. He's taken so much. Whips in a little left hand of his own. Collins just slipped.
I came out the fight unscathed, unhurt, and Steve was to tell me after the fight. They carried me out the ring like I was the winner. Like I'd won the title. All his family were shaking. Say, I can't believe you, Brian. You got some heart, you have. And I was like, yeah. Tired, exhausted. And then Steve said to me, the hardest fight I've ever had in my life. And I thought, hang on, you box Nigel, you box Eubanks, you box these people. He's just saying this because after the fight we do say these things. And it wasn't me at full shit. I thought, not me at full. I said, can I have a rematch? And he went, no. And I thought, damn. And then about a year later, I get a phone call from a friend. Just seen Steve Collins at a talk show. I goes, yeah, good lad, is he? Brilliant. Oh my God, he's talking about you like nobody's business. I goes, what about? He goes, you. He asked him, asking questions about Ben and Eubanks, and he says the hardest fight I ever had with a blown up middleweight, Neville Brown. That was the hardest fight, and that then realised then it was, and true to the word, he said it was his hardest fight, and that's my fame, my name to fame really, because people knew Steve Collins. I fought tough kids at my weight that nobody knew, so it doesn't really sell. But people go, I know Steve Collins. So they could see Nigel Benn against Steve Collins, they could see Eubanks against Steve Collins, and then see me against Steve Collins, and I'm not the size or the time. They can work it out for themselves. And for the first time, I can let my talents show what I could have done.
Remember Nigel Benn telling me it took him a whole year to make the graduation from middleweight up to super middleweight. And in an ideal world, Brown would have wanted a couple of fights at the new weight before going in this deep. But when opportunities arise, they have to be taken, I guess.
One of the people said to me, I remember a conversation, someone said to me, before the Steve Collins fight, I was in a bar. Don't ask me why. I was in a bar, and a guy walked into the room and went, Nev Brown. I looked around at him, I goes, you're boxing Steve Collins. I goes, yeah. He goes, aren't you scared? I goes, why? Is he in the room? And he looked at me, he gave me his funny look for me and went, oh, you're a comedian. I goes, well, no, why am I going to worry about him? When the bell rings, then I'll worry. I ain't got to worry till the bell rings. And he started laughing. And I thought, yeah, I got Steve Collins. And it was an entertaining fight, let's put it that way, yeah. I had to dig in deep because I had no reserves. So I had to dig in deep. And I showed my true honesty then. And I went after him and it was a great fight. I didn't get hurt any part of the fight, and I sat back and I enjoyed. It was a fight that I lost, but I won. It was, you know, when you win, sometimes you win, you lose, and sometimes you lose, you win. That was one of those fights. I lost the fight, but I put such a good effort in, and at short notice that everybody, promoters, I think it was Fight of the Year that year. So it wasn't just the fighters; it was other people saying it was as well, and I then thought, I've made it big time now. Now I can focus on middleweight and get it done properly. And that's when I got injured. That's when the old injury came back up, because everybody thought, if you can do that in 4 weeks, what can you do in 3 months training? Yeah, then they overtrained me. And then my back bust. And that was the end of my boxing career, really. Even though I continued to fight a couple of fights after, I was pretty much immobilised then.
Credit to Brown, I don't think he's ever had to show as much guts as this. Showing real character in what is a tremendously hard fight.